Good afternoon and Eid Mubarak to all Muslims in Ghana. My name is Solis Rose Quarter. Welcome to Midday Live. We're coming to you live from the news hub at Adesanwe in Accra. We're streaming worldwide on the internet via 3news.com, also interactive via social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, as well as Facebook. Coming up in the bulletin this afternoon. Muslims celebrate Eid al-Fitr. Railways Development Minister says further encroachment along Accra and Sowam rail line will not be tolerated. Influx of foreign retailers in Ghana's markets is to be regulated. Also this afternoon, there's been some fighting for oil in some areas in Africa. We'll be bringing you details of all that and more, including sports and entertainment. Don't forget that we're live on DSTV channel 279. Many thanks for staying with us on Midday Live. As you know, it's World Cup season. I've been joined in the studio by our sports journalist, Yao Ofosu-Labi, with a brief of what to expect today. Yao?
Well, today there are just 3 games that will be played. Egypt and Uruguay starting just at the moment. The game is just about 2 minutes in there. Also, there's Morocco-Iran at 3 p.m. And then the big one is Portugal-Spain at 6 p.m. Those are the 3 games that we are expecting. And a lot more exciting games than we saw yesterday when Russia beat Saudi Arabia by 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much, Yao Ofosu-Labi, with the World Cup updates there. And let's move on from football into some other stories, where thousands of Muslims gathered at the Black Star Square this morning to pray to mark this year's Eid al-Fitr celebration. Now, meanwhile, the Muslim community has been advised not to seek only their welfare, but that of others, including the poor and destitute in the society. George Ekokwening was there and has more.
Eid al-Fitr is celebrated to mark the end of Ramadan, which is the month-long fasting in the Islamic calendar. The usual ritual heralding this celebration is a 30-month fasting by Muslims. The Black Star Square once again played host to the Muslim fraternity, who were clad in bright, colorful apparels to pray and seek Allah's guidance and protection. With an assertion that Muslims are violent, Chief of Sheriffs Adamu Tijani Nagahia found that worrying and appealed to the youth to adhere to the teachings and words of Prophet Muhammad and remain chaste.
It's very sad. In the first place, the meaning of Islam is peace. So we are meant for peace. But our youth, excuse me to say, it's lack of education. And sometimes too, I don't know, it's the upbringing in the society. But we're just talking to them, and it will be one day, it will be okay. But we are not that the way people meant to be. Exactly. But sometimes our activities and sometimes our behavior makes people to think that we are like that.
The celebration, according to former musical president Alhaji Siddiq Buhari, should unite Muslims.
When you are praying, pray not only for yourself, not only for your family, for the whole nation. We want the betterment of the nation. The betterment of the nation is the betterment for everybody. To be able to do the right thing and don't do a wrong thing. Try to make sure that, whatever you know is good, that's what you do. And believe in trying to help the nation, help the poor in particular. Because you see, it's reached the time of zakat. Some of the people, they have money and they are not giving it out. You don't do that. You have to give out zakat to those who does not have it.
The police say they've got all it takes to make the celebration a success and peaceful and orderly.
We've done enough deployment here, and security is at its best. So the only thing is cooperation from the faithfuls.
So can you give an estimate of the number of personnel that have been deployed in the capital?
Normally, we don't give out the number, but I can assure you that we have what it takes to bring peace here.
Traders took the opportunity to cash in with their wares for sale.
Now, still on the Eid celebrations, the national imam of the Al-Usana Wal Jama, Sheikh Umar Ibrahim Imam, has blamed the lack of development of Muslim communities on the neglect of Muslim children. Addressing the Al-Usana Wal Jama congregation during the Eid prayers at the A4 Sutherland Children's Park, Sheikh Umar Ibrahim Imam maintained until Muslims educate and make their children a priority, they will never see any significant development or change in their lives. In Ghana, predominantly Muslim communities are stereotypically among the poorest communities. This state of affairs, according to the national imam of the Al-Usana Wal Jama, Sheikh Umar Ibrahim Imam, is as a result of the neglect of Muslim children.
We will not make any headway in this country unless we invest and take care of our children. Their education is paramount. If we want to contribute to the development of this nation, then we must educate our children so that tomorrow a Muslim child will be very proud that he or she can stand anywhere and teach the children are a Muslim. Why? Because of education.
Addressing the congregation, Sheikh Mohammed Kamil Mohammed, who also led the prayers earlier, admonished the youth who take advantage of the holy occasion to cause chaos to desist from such acts.
Those who are riding motorbike in the country, making noise, it's not part of our religion. Everybody should go home and then go and eat and greet his friends and then brothers. Allah says in the Quran, He has given everybody a mind so that you can think of it. So if there is a false prophet, you will know him. Don't sit and then let somebody betray you and then taking you as his servant. Try and search for the truth way that you can achieve for yourself and then for the country.
Sheikh Mohammed Kamil Mohammed also called on government to make its position clear on the legalization of homosexuality in Ghana.
We don't support it because it's not part of our religion. Even Christians is not part of their religion. So we are telling our government to come out clearly, let us know his position, because we are not going to accept it.
As hundreds of Muslim faithful gathered to observe Eid al-Fitr prayers to mark the end of the holy month of Ramadan at the A4 Sutherland Children's Park earlier today, the message was clear. Islam was for peace, and peace was for Islam. A spokesperson for the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Arumeyao Shaibu, has urged all Muslims to embrace the spirit of tolerance as the faithful across the world mark Eid al-Fitr. He said some Muslims over the years have exhibited a great deal of impatience with regards to how they handle issues in their communities. And speaking of which, I have been joined in the studio by Sheikh Arumeyao Shaibu, and he will be talking to us about the significance of the Eid celebrations. Good afternoon, sir. Many thanks for joining us.
Nice to meet you. Great. The Eid al-Fitr marks the closure of the 1 month Ramadan season. It comes on the first day of the 10th month on the Muslim calendar. It is a day set aside for us to give glorification and thanks to God for having gathered us right from within the season, and also a period on which we explore the gains that we have made during the period. During the period, we lifted up our spiritual activity. We're supposed to attain piety and God consciousness as to reflect in our lives and to shine in our lives the beauty of our morality, how we respect our personal dignity and respect the right of others, become law-abiding citizens, become honest people, so that our community will benefit from our honesty. That is the significance of the day. The Imam then draws our attention in his sermon on these very germane principles of life that we need to carry out in the rest of the months on the calendar. Okay. Then it's also a day to show joy, because we celebrate our success for having overcome temptations during the period. We showcase it, and then we exchange best wishes, move around family members and including neighbors. All right. We share with them what we have.
All right. Now, you spoke about morality. Now, there is a stereotype about Islam that sometimes it's linked with some sort of violence, because some people probably in the past have exhibited such traits. Now, how can Muslims use this period to ensure that they educate other people regarding this?
Yeah.
And change their mindsets.
There has been some manifestations of such impatience, which we have seen in some cases. I think the period provides opportunity for us to enter into introspection and in inner self-examination of our own lives. it also provides opportunity for us to come close to the Quran, because that was the season in which it was revealed.
Okay.
And so there's a tradition of Quranic interpretations led by some of the very, very eminent Islamic scholars who sit, and students sit around them, and then they give interpretation. I think it offers the greatest opportunity for us to provide that kind of education, emphasize areas of the positive habits and positive moral attributes that are needed in modern day situation, particularly in a world where we can see manifestation of impatience resulting into wars, conflicts, needless conflicts, where women are being raped, people are made refugees in their own countries, children are killed mercilessly, people are being maimed for no reason. It's not their faults. It's all as a result of the human wickedness and human impatience.
Okay.
The world has a lot for us to be able to enjoy, and I think that this is a time for us to really exhibit that, and we need to educate and teach people the spirit. One of the highlights of Ramadan is tolerance at the peak of provocation. Tolerance at the peak of provocation. That is one of the highlights. So we find that one of the traditions of the Prophet says that when you are fasting and somebody even provokes you or fights you, tell him, I am fasting. This is figurative. It is not that you tell everyone as you walk on the street, I'm fasting, I'm fasting, I'm fasting, but that demonstrate in your life the spirit of somebody who is fasting, and so therefore he does not give evil for evil. Vengefulness, retribution will not be a part of your life. Now, if the world should go by the principle of retribution, then everybody in the world will be killed. Eye for an eye will mean that one day every member of the world will become eyeless. We will not have the eye.
Exactly.
So that's why we must break it somewhere, through tolerance.
Now, finally, before we go, religious bodies in general, Christianity included, have been heavily criticized for the fact that, in spite of the fact that there are so many churches and so many mosques, moral vices still are rife. What can religious leaders do in the case of Islam?
I agree with you. Perfectly. And when I assess myself, my religion, myself, and other things, I can see failure. I can't understand why in an area where countless mosques, you cannot count the numbers, and the makarantas are there, and then immorality is also under ascendancy. Churches are there plenty. We see the numbers, and yet we have become one of the most corrupt countries. Yeah. Corruption is rife. Every member belongs to one religion or the other, either Islam or Christianity. So what is it? I think there's a certain gap. There's a certain disconnect between our practice of religiosity and what true righteousness and honest righteousness mean. I think we need to go back to our books, probably change our mode of preaching. Yeah, and I think there's something must be done. In other words, why we have missed the point, let's connect the point and look at how we are doing our preaching so that we can get to the very mind and spirit of those who listen to us and cause radical change, moral refinement, and then our country will be beneficial.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with Sheikh Arumaya Shaibu. He's a spokesperson for the National Chief Imam. Now, let's move away from that and do some other stories, because international journalism and international journalist and communications expert Esther Ama has cautioned those making arguments about the veracity of the number 12 expose based on admissible evidence in court to be mindful in order that not all investigative pieces seek jail term as the ultimate penalty. Speaking at a program dubbed Undercover Journalism, the Ethics, Public Interest and the Law, Esther Ama was of the view that investigative journalism in Ghana should be tailored to accommodate the cultural context, even as we try to adopt international best practices. Following the much talked about investigative documentary by renowned journalist Anas Arumaya Anas, number 12, many ethical and legal arguments have popped up, ranging from the issue of admissibility of evidence in court, entrapment, to that of right to privacy. Esther Ama maintained investigative journalists should not be forced to meet legal standards of securing convictions for their reports, because even lawyers cannot secure automatic convictions even with airtight cases. The burden of the admissibility of evidence in court should therefore not be placed on the shoulders of investigative journalists, as this will discourage their efforts.
They are not required to gather information in order to make it through a court of law. That is not their job. That doesn't mean there is a line between investigative journalism and law. There is definitely a legal scrutiny, particularly when you're doing undercover filming. But it is not true, it is not fair, and it's not right to say that if an investigative journalist's undercover filming is not admissible as a piece of evidence, it shouldn't be done.
She was also of the view that as much as Ghana strives to adopt international standards of practice, local contexts should always be considered.
In order to really think about global standards, you must also apply a cultural context, because somebody created the standard with their particular environment in mind. What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Why are we going to do it a particular way? And so here in Ghana, we must also think about the same things. And sometimes shame is even more powerful than jail, because jail, nobody can see you. But shaming, that means your name is out there. People know what you've done. They're looking at you. They're pointing at you. In our parts of the world, it works as a tool.
Barrister at law and lecturer at the Ghana Institute of Journalism, Zachariah Tanko Musa, was optimistic the seeming impasse between legal minds and journalists regarding the methodology employed by ANAS to uncover the corrupt practices in the Ghana Football Association would create opportunities to explore new laws while fine-tuning existing ones.
Journalists are not police. They are not state actors. But of course, when you look at the whole concept of journalists and what journalists are supposed to do, i.e. being the watchdog of society. If they are the watchdog of society, then isn't it the case that the journalists would also have to consider doing proactive policing? And if you're going to do proactive policing, the question is, how are you going to unearth those corrupt practices if you don't find other creative and innovative ways of doing that?
Stakeholders at the program urged those in authority to let the debate generate meaningful impact on the practice of investigative journalism in the country. The Railways Development Minister, Joe Garte, has given an assurance that his outfit will not tolerate further encroachment on the Accra and Sawam rail lines. The chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Roads and Transport, Samuel Ayepaye, has proposed the relocation of the Agbogloshi market in the Central Business District as a long-term solution to encroachment in order to make way for the development of a modern railway system.
These structures, you see, last week it wasn't there. So if this week it is there and you keep it, by next week they built a story building. If we continue this way, there will come a time that encroachers will ask for compensation. If you just look back, somebody has a ranch or something of sheep and so on. How can we build in such circumstances? It should be obvious to you that now our greatest problem is human activity at certain places, and we have to deal with it. I haven't said I'm putting out structures. That is a job of the engineer who is working. If he thinks he can work with the structures, then he should continue working.
Advice that I would give to the Ministry of Railway and also local government, and for that matter, AME, is to relocate Kantamanto and Agbogloshi. There's the need for relocation. Once the train is going to pass through Ajim, Kutuku, and Nsamum, there's the need for us to relocate Agbogloshi and Kantamanto. When that is done, then of course we can have some peace. And not now, after the construction work is going on, I don't think government has any plan in locating Kantamanto and Agbogloshi, but in the near future, something might be done about it. There's a need for us to get a new market center for this project. When you are building railway, you are also building a city as well. So we'll look at one day we have a shopping mall, very big, beautiful shopping mall at Kantamanto, very tall, that can take so many people. And then also in Agbogloshi, if it's a food market, there's a modern way of building a food market. It can be a story building with the shops and then a whole lot of modern way, not what we see here. People have turned the place to be their residential area, and it's very bad. I saw people having their mats and mattresses in the drain. In the modern world, people are still sleeping in the drain. It's not the best.
Now to the health sector, where the Minister of Health, Kweku Agyemang-Manu, says a committee has been set up to investigate the death of a 70-year-old man who was refused medical attention at 7 hospitals in Accra. Kweku Agyemang-Manu also gave reasons why some health facilities are yet to be opened to the public.
The Minister of Health, Kweku Agyemang-Manu, indicated all health facilities have been instructed to stop refusing patients.
I've requested the Director General to write to all health facilities to stop that thing immediately.
Concerning the death of the 70-year-old man, he explained that the Ministry of Health will come out with a comprehensive report.
We have set up a committee that is going around, looking at information, doing investigations for us to see what actually happened and what things that we shouldn't have done happened, and let us identify those who did that. I've sent a good group from the ministry to go to the bereaved family, and they've given us a chronology of what had happened that night to the man.
On completed but non-functional health facilities, the Minister of Health admitted the delay could be attributed to the lack of interagency and interministerial collaboration.
They were done as a component of the roles that they were doing. When they finished, nobody knows what happened. They were left there for 8 good years, nobody asked any question. This was brought to our notice just about last 2 or 3 weeks. So Ministry of Roads or whoever put up the facilities never even informed the ministry, or how do I call it, Ghana Health Service. And that is why interagency or ministerial collaboration is always very, very necessary.
Kweku Agyemang-Manu said the matter is being looked into.
And from our engagement with the Ministry of Roads, I think the contractor even didn't hand over those facilities to the Ministry of Roads as well. We need equipment, we need to do some refurbishment to the buildings, we need to staff the place. For now, we've identified about 7 of them, such facilities.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Medical Association has challenged government to improve emergency care as a way of solving the no-bed syndrome. A statement in response to the directive saying no government health institution should turn away patients over no-bed excuse, the Ghana Medical Association says the problem facing medical institutions is both largely systemic and, in some cases, attributable to individual factors. The association is calling on the Ministry of Health to implement the Accident Emergency Service Guidelines of 2011. The statement further said, while frontline workers may be culpable in some situations, a lot of the problems that bedevil emergency room care and services are systematic. The Ghana Medical Association says it would prefer the joint committee set up to investigate this matter will unravel the circumstance that resulted in the death of the 70-year-old man and subsequently identify and recommend instituting specific measures to improve emergency care.
And now to our MTN video report this afternoon. Our citizen journalist Imoro Al-Hassan reports on the education infrastructure in the Upper West region.
This is Wichao Islamic Basic School in West District of the Upper West region. On your screen now is a complete 6-unit classroom block in the school funded by Social Investment Fund to create an enable environment for effective teaching and learning. Unfortunately, as we speak, the school block have not handed over to the school because the district assembly have been alleged not to have fulfilled their part of the agreement, which is 20% of the total cost of the building. Meanwhile, pupils and teachers of the school have since been sitting on the trains and few deplorable structures with absolutely no furniture and other few logistics to receive tuition and also write their terminal exam. This is Imor Al-Hassan reporting from West District, Wichao.
You can also send your video report via WhatsApp number 0551-433-755. And we'll be right back with some more news after this. Don't go away. Welcome back to Midday Live. Don't forget that we're live on DSTV channel 279. And to some business news this afternoon, the Vice Chairman for the Accra Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nana Ajini Mboating, says government is set to launch a clear-cut map to curb the influx of foreign retailers in the country in July. He was speaking on the sidelines of a training workshop organized for its members here in Accra.
The training workshop forms part of the Chamber's monthly meeting with members to discuss issues bordering on their business. This month's training was on prudent financial management skills. On the sidelines of the event, the Vice Chairman for the Accra Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Nana Ajini Mboating, says a committee formed by government is set to fight the influx of foreign retailers in Ghana's commercial markets this July. Nana Ajini Mboating said, apart from the high lending rates at the banks, the activities of these foreigners is a major source of concern.
This time there's a committee in place. I'm part of the committee, and we are now coming up with concrete measures that can really deal with these foreigners on our retail market, effectively. And we are also talking to our fellow businesses, because in most cases you find out that we ourselves Ghanaians are fronting for some of these foreigners.
The Executive Regional Secretary for the Chamber of Commerce, Grace Akosia Jeble, however, wants members of the Chamber to take full advantage of the workshop to improve upon their businesses.
We are looking at other alternative ways of financing the business, and that comes with prudent management, efficient management of the finances of the business, especially for SMEs who may not be able to have the required collateral that the traditional banks will be asking for. We are looking at how can you grow organically.
Director of Multilateral, Regional and Bilateral Trade at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Anthony Nyame-Befi, has responded to several concerns about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. Mr. Befi assures stakeholders that government will ensure the competitive advantage of Ghana. He was speaking to our reporter Nguyen Falong in Accra.
In March, 44 African heads of state and government officials met in Kigali, Rwanda, to sign the framework to establish the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, AFCFTA. Under AFCFTA, countries will remove tariffs on 90% of goods. The AFCFTA will come into effect 30 days after ratification by the parliaments of at least 22 countries. Ghana was the second country to ratify the agreement in April. Several concerns have since been raised by stakeholders and analysts concerning the competitive advantage of local industries and the extent of consultation that went into the ratification of this agreement. Speaking to these concerns, Director of Multilateral and Bilateral Trade at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Anthony Nyame-Befi, explained that government has plans to hold further engagements to determine sensitive and exclusive goods, which will be scrutinized alongside ECOWAS and AU trade guidelines before the 90% trade is declared. He disclosed that government will revamp the industrial sector to improve the value chain of Ghanaian businesses, as well as lower production costs of industries prior to free trade.
What sectors are we looking at strengthening to be able to benefit from this agreement?
Agro processing, because we have a lot of raw materials that we need to add value, and we think that when we do that, that will improve the value chain and then create more jobs. It will enable those companies already that have been approved to export under the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme to launch further to other African markets.
Mr. Nyame added that the Ministry of Trade has a priority agenda to ensure competitive advantage although he agreed a lot of work lies ahead to prepare the Ghanaian business scene. He assured Ghanaians that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is an economic decision that will catapult trade revenues of Ghana.
Now, a study by the International Finance Corporation on gender diversity in Ghanaian boardrooms has revealed that 72% of boards surveyed did not have female representation. Also, the study revealed that 78% of organizations did not have a policy on gender representation to guide the selection for top management and board positions.
The study, Gender Diversity in Ghanaian Boardrooms, was carried out by the University of Ghana Business School with the objective of examining the nature of gender diversity in public and private sector boards in Ghana. The findings revealed that 72% of 162 boards surveyed did not have female representation, and the gender diversity of boards, that is the proportion of female to board members, ranged from 1 to 6. 24% of boards composed of only males, thus 1 of every 4 boards have no female representation. Also, 49% of women on boards were non-executive directors, and only 6% of organizations have females as board chairs. At the launch of the key findings of the study, panelists underscored the need to improve the presence of females on boards because it provides role models and pacesetters that younger females can look up to.
There is a genuine apprehension that the positions are few. Women have been enjoying it for so long. The more women you bring, the less men there will be. Whereas women multitask and can find many things to do, men do not generally multitask.
In Ghana, we have a very deep-rooted cultural bias. It's always been okay for women to be consulted in camera, and then the man appears to be making the decision. So a lot of the time, the men know that the women have certain skills that they need, that they are better decision makers in certain areas. They would prefer to consult them and then be the ones to show that they have the ideas. We have to find ways of breaking this cultural bias.
When I need some work to do in a short time, I just need to plug calls of numbers and they'll deliver. And most of them are ladies, but very sharp. So I don't see age as an issue. It's more about, are we giving the ladies opportunities? Are we giving them the exposure? Are we giving them a chance?
I've been on boards. You go and sit down, and several times there are important matters to discuss, and the men are talking about the last trip they went and the Swiss and the wine and the girls. And it's bothersome. He says, gentlemen, we are here for a meeting, shall we? Oh, Mrs. Campbell, shutting you up because you are trying to get us to the point.
The study recommends organizations to aim to develop gender policies for top management and board level positions that ensure a good balance between males and females.
And that's it for business, and away from that, let's do some more stories. Media General, through its 3 Foundation, with support from some philanthropic individuals and organizations, have presented a check to Thomas Khan to assist his kidney transplant. Thomas still needs a kidney donor and $25,000 to enable him undergo a kidney transplant in India, his only option to survive.
Media General, through its social support wing 3 Foundation, called on Ghanaians to assist raise $25,000 for a kidney transplant for Thomas Khan. Some cash was donated. CSR manager for Media General, Akosia Ejesuno, expressed gratitude to all who supported by donating.
Media General's 3 Foundation, our core mandate is to impact life by way of giving back to the society. And Thomas Khan is our own, and we think this is our widow's mite to help him get health relief. And we are not doing this alone. I'll take this opportunity to thank organizations, institutions, and the public who are always at our beck and call whenever we solicit for funds.
Thomas Khan, thanked his benefactors.
I say a very big thank you to everybody, especially to my own family, that's the media general group, the management and staff, and the well-meaning Ghanaians out there for this kind of support.
Thomas suffers acute kidney failure and will need a transplant and a donor, the only option to survive.
Thing possible. And now I'm still appealing for donor. I'm still counting on anybody who is willing, who is O positive and ready to come on board and save a life.
He has lived with kidney failure for the last 5 years and presently survives on expensive procedure of dialysis 3 times a week. Media General is still encouraging individuals and organizations to assist raise $25,000 for the transplant to help Khan live and achieve his dreams and aspirations. Please donate to the TV3 Support Fund account number 601-060-3927 at any Zenith Bank branch. You can also donate through mobile money number 024-522-1555 or at the TV3 premises at Kanda in Accra.
Always say no amount is too small. Do donate towards Thomas's surgery. Let's move away and do some other stories. Bubbly children are a happy sight to behold, and for many parents, these children are problem-solving adults of the future. Research indicates almost 50% of children do not achieve their full potential. Research findings also say the first 1,000 days of a child's life determines whether it will attain its full potential or not.
Early childhood development has been cited as the most cost-effective means of bridging the gap of inequality. Unfortunately, not all children get the opportunity to achieve their full potential. According to The Lancet, a medical journal, it is estimated that 250 million, that is 43% of children under 5 years of age, are not achieving their full potential. Children who do not receive adequate health, nutrition, early stimulation, learning opportunities, care and protection, identified as the 5 elements of nurturing care, tend to have lower cognitive, language and psychosocial outcomes, which translate to lower academic achievement in primary school and ultimately dropping out of school. The wife of the Vice President, Samira Baumia, indicated that poor nutrition, lack of stimulation and exposure to high levels of violence and pollution result in irreparable brain damage in young children.
We have to improve the care of children and address childcare concerns beyond survival. This will ultimately lay the foundation to building healthy and productive economies. Let us secure the health of our future generations by investing in the early years of children's lives today.
The Minister of Health said investing in early childhood development is necessary to uphold the right of every child to survive and thrive.
Let us try to reach all mothers across in a way. But we will have to do intersectoral collaboration, especially with education and social protection.
The director of the Ghana Health Service has indicated Ghana is putting the care of the child to the fore.
We are now putting the baby at the highest point. We want to start nurturing the baby, both feeding and also development, education, health, from the first day of birth. The first day in school, we shall also do health screening for the children. The important thing is that if the secondary school students, we are also going to now allocate every public secondary school to a health institution. So, and then our health institutions will take over the sick base. We are also saying that every secondary school student who is coming to school will have an active health insurance card.
You're still watching Midday live from the News Hub at Adesanwe in Kanda, Accra. We'll be right back shortly with some more news. Do stay. And in international news this afternoon, fierce clashes between rival armed groups have broken out in Libya's oil crescent, home to the country's biggest oil terminals. The fighting, which broke out at dawn, is between the self-styled army based in the east of the country, known as the Libya National Army, the LNA, and the Benghazi Defense Brigade, an umbrella group for a mix of fighters, which includes Islamists. Witnesses say the fighting caused an oil storage tank to catch fire in the Ras Lanuf terminal. Media reports citing oil industry. The industry workers also say the Es Sedar terminal has been shut down. The two terminals produce combined exports of just over 400,000 barrels of crude oil per day. While the oil crescent is no stranger to armed clashes, it has witnessed a period of relative calm over the past year, which allowed the country's crude oil exports to increase. Now from Libya to Nigeria, where the mother of Boko Haram's leader Abubakar Shekau has spoken out, telling Voice of America that her son has brought many problems to many people and that she hasn't seen him in 15 years. I am praying for God to show him the good way, she told the broadcaster. He just took his own character and went away. This is not the character I gave him. I don't know what this type of behavior is. It's only God who knows. Where can I meet him to tell him that these things he is doing is very bad? Boko Haram launched an insurgency against the Nigerian government in 2009 with the aim of establishing an Islamic caliphate in West Africa, mostly focused in northeastern Nigeria. The conflict has reportedly left around 20,000 dead and displaced at least 2 million. Led by Abubakar Shekau, Boko Haram pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group ISIS in March 2015. In August 2016, the group apparently split with an IS video announcing that Mr. Shekau had been replaced with Abu Musab al-Banawi, believed to be the son of Boko Haram's founder. Mr. Shekau disputed this, insisting he is still in charge. Right to Asia now. An Indian government think tank, Niti Aayog, says India is facing its worst ever water crisis, with some 600 million people facing acute water shortage. The Niti Aayog report, which draws on data from 24 of India's 29 states, says the crisis is only going to get worse in the years ahead. It also warns that the 21 cities are likely to run out of groundwater by 2020 despite increasing demand. All right, and now let's do some more Eid stories. And President Akufo-Addo has appealed to the Muslim community to be on the lookout for people amongst them who peddle hate to disturb the security of the state. Speaking at this year's Eid al-Fitr in Accra, the president said the territorial integrity of the country is a joint effort of both the civilian population and the security agencies.
The National Chief Imam Sheikh Dr. Usman Nuhu Shaributu led the General Umar in prayer, after which he delivered his sermon. The Chief Imam admonished his fellow Muslims to continually fear Allah and submit to Him. He urged them to remember the auspicious nature of the occasion and the spiritual success they have attained at the end of 30 days of fasting. President Akufo-Addo observed, the price of liberty, they say, is eternal vigilance. Therefore, a constant lookout for deviants in the country ought to be the responsibility of all persons, including the Muslim community.
I urge you to be on the lookout for troublemakers and hate preachers amongst us. The security agencies will not hesitate to deal with those who incite hate, not even if they do so in the name of Islam or Christianity. My government remains committed to the welfare of the Muslim community in Ghana.
The president also called on the various Muslim communities and sects in the country to embrace one another, irrespective of their doctrinal differences.
Ghana is home to persons of virtually every religious denomination. They all go about their religious practices without hindrance. We ought to guard this tradition of religious cooperation and tolerance jealously. The 1 month period of intense devotion to God will have little meaning if it does not continue to reflect in our attitude as Ghanaians. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu.
And now to some entertainment news. Now, we're asking this afternoon, does it pay to do music? Well, singer Yaya says venturing into music is one of the best things that ever happened to her. According to the Life composer, she used proceeds from performances to fund her university education.
Speaking to TV3's entertainment desk, Yaya explained that she used income from performances to pay her fees at the University of Ghana, where she studied theatre arts.
To some extent, yes, because for my university education, I paid my way through university with my music money.
Really?
Through shows, through deals with other companies and all that.
Touching on the significance of investment, the former winner of music reality show Stars of the Future encouraged musicians to make judicious use of their income.
Music is seasonal, really. There are seasons where shows come in, there are seasons that shows don't come in. So for the period where you're not getting shows, what are you doing? So in the same vein, even though you're a musician, you could find other things on the side that you do. It's a great advice that people who come into the music industry should realize how valuable it is, how big it is, and it can pay you, but you also have to be smart. Do other things aside the music so that it can also generate money for you. And if you're looking at being wealthy, that's the wisest way to go about it. Invest in a lot of money-making ventures so that you can grow your wealth.
Born Bertha Bridget Kankam, the Kai composer was one of the only 2 Ghanaian performers at the 2018 annual Multicultural Africa Day event held in Hamburg, Germany. To Yaya, it felt great, entertaining over 15,000 revelers at the festival.
It's overwhelming to see that number of people. There were in thousands. It was a new experience. Yes, you perform at the National Theatre in big spaces and you get, that kind of audience, but this was a different feel. Last year I was in Austria, but the numbers were lesser than this. So it was really, really an awakening for me as an artist.
Well, indeed, if you do invest properly in your craft, you will reap the benefits. And that's all for Midday Live this afternoon. My name is Solace Rose Corte. Don't forget, you can get more news updates on our website, 3news.com. And we're also live always on DSTV channel 279. Always get interactive with us via social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Twitter. Good afternoon.